Hi there, and welcome to a very special episode of the Cult of Cinema. Well, in actuality, this one is kind of the cult of comics. If you follow my Patreon, then you've seen episodes like this before, but don't click off quite yet. But you're not into comics so much that maybe that's not quite your thing. Don't worry, we're going to be not just looking at some omnibuses and basically the differences in them, but we'll also be going online to look to do comparisons, like to kind of shop for some, and you'll find some nice neat little hints, shopping hints too, that you can take into your movie collecting as well. And let's face it, if you're here and you're a huge movie fan, whether you're watching something along the lines of Friday the 13th or Ingmar Bergman or Hitchcock or Fritz Lang, they all storyboarded their films, and in a way, you're, no matter what it is, you think the MCU is like the only comic book universe you've seen, but in actuality, any film starts off as a storyboard, as a comic. So that's how we're going to go with this right now. I have a couple of different types of omnibuses to show you guys, kind of to give you an idea of what you're going to get when it comes to and kind of price range and that as well, and why certain things are priced the way they are. Now, one of the most pricey ones that you're going to find, aside from a regular DC, which we will get into the different pricing, is this right here. Now, I was lucky enough that I bought this one in the second-hand market, got it in mint condition, and that this one here is the Marvel Comics. Now, Marvel Comics, or as they were known then, was timely, and Marvel Comics was actually Marvel Mystery Comics. That was the name of the comic itself. And a neat little thing to know about that is that back in the day, until the I think it was in the late 60s, Marvel actually published through through basically DC's company. So what that meant was that, and a lot of people ask this too when they're getting into comics, is how come Thor was in a journey into mystery? How come there was amazing fantasy for Spider-Man? How come there's so little when comics were so big? How come Marvel had so few comics? Well, they were limited to being able to publish 8 comics per year. So they had to kind of take a lot of their characters and put them into these anthology titles. And it wasn't until they were certain that this character could anchor his book, that they would eventually bring them over into their own books. And they'd often still have a secondary character in the book to go across. That's why you got Thor had, when Thor did eventually become Thor, I think he had the Tales of Asgard in there as well. So it was an interesting time, and we will talk about that actually here in another video. So why is this one usually one of the more pricier ones? Well, this one was done back in, I think this was the 1930s, if I remember correctly. So one thing to know about a comic like this is this is the early years of comics. So that means that, at least Marvel does anyway, I'm not sure if DC does, but Marvel has a master. Basically, same when you get a movie, you get in a 2K or 4K remaster. Older comics like these have to be remastered before they're put in to these here books. The remastering of these comics cost a lot, and often you'll see some of these older comics that get charged more because of that. And just to give you an idea of what it looks like on the inside, here is, you can see the book itself. You can see how well it was done. You got to remember, this was done at the time that this came out, it was its 70-year anniversary. And yet some of these here look like they could have been drawn and colored, just last week. Obviously, you can tell the difference in the style of the arts that's done. I do love the artwork that's done here. There's an Electro character, Marvel of the Age. And they would often have short stories in them as well. So you do definitely get your bang for your buck when it comes to these, but they do tend to cost a bit more when it comes to that kind of that bang wise. Now, regular Marvel omnibuses are ones like this one right here, like The Amazing Spider-Man. This is volume 2. On the back of them, you will always see on a Marvel one, which you won't see on a DC one, is a cover gallery of all the comics that are inside of this here. So I really like this. It gives you an idea and a feel for it. DC often doesn't do this. They also don't always put like they'll put art, the cover art sometimes, but they won't let you see the actual unadulterated cover. Another thing that Marvel does that DC doesn't do, and I'm going to try to find this for you right now before we go into the shopping aspect of this, is that Marvel also reprint the letters pages. Now, it may seem like a little thing or a small thing, but for me, the letters pages was a way to contact or to talk to Marvel and talk to other people out there. There wasn't an internet back then, guys. This is how comic fans talk to one another. But what's even neater about this is there's an historical aspect to this as well. So let's say, for instance, you pick up the Jack Kirby's Captain America. He did this Mad Bomb. He came back from DC to run in Captain America. A lot of people were upset with Jack Kirby at the time, including people that were working behind the scenes. So a lot of negative mail towards Jack Kirby can be found in the letters pages, because the editing staff was letting the negative mail specifically pass by and go into the editing pages. So you can find out a lot when it comes to what a lot of people were thinking in that time and in that period. Now, before I go on to show you what a DC Omnibus looks like and what the difference between DC and Marvel is, there's one more thing to show you. You're going to see certain ones like a Solomon Kane or a Conan, the Savage Sword of Conan, and a lot of these are going to have black and white artwork. And some people ask, well, it's black and white, do I need it in an omnibus format? So I want you to see what black and white artwork looks like on an oversized page. So you can actually see how well done and how brilliantly beautiful. You can see the pencils and the inks that are done in this here. I got to be careful, because the thing with black and white artwork, though, when you're getting a Marvel that's in black and white, that means that they were initially done in a magazine format, which also means they were done in a format that would be considered not safe for children. So there would often be more graphic violence or more nudity within those there. So obviously in Savage Sword of Conan and stuff like that, there would be nudity, there would be the beheadings, the violence, and they could go so far with with Conan the Barbarian, the comic book, but there was a limit to what they could do, especially with the Comics Code. Even if they ignored the Comics Code a bit, there was still a Comics Code that they did listen to. So I also have a DC one to show you here, and you're going to notice one thing almost immediately, and that is how thick this book is. So is this book thicker because it is bigger than, it has more pages than all the other books that I've got in my collection? Actually, no, not really. It's actually pretty much similar to a Spider-Man one that I've got upstairs that I didn't bring down, Ben Reilly, and the Ben Reilly book is not this thick. So why is the DC books this thick? Well, the honest truth about it is DC, one of the things that DC does do right, and it took a while for DC to get their omnibuses right, is that they use a thicker paper stock than Marvel does. So if you buy an early Marvel one, for instance, you'll notice that oftentimes, even if it's the same one, if it's a reprint, say you buy the first printing of something, and then you buy this Spider-Man that I bought, for instance, which seems like it's thick enough as it is, but it would have been thicker in its first printing because it would have used a heavier paper stock. So the heavier paper stock makes for a bigger book, and I gotta say, DC has come a long way when it comes to their stuff, to the point where now DC has gotten is getting accolades for what they've done, especially recently, because Marvel has gone to a printer, and that was a printer that they've used before. But one of the things that you'll notice here for a lot of these, this one here, DC has kind of a flatter spine than the other ones that I showed you. But Marvel has started to use a flatter spine with their newer omnibuses and a smaller text. So that's been problematic for some people, especially if you've been collecting for a while and you've got these here standing out like this. And as you can see right here, there is no artwork on the, there's artwork, but there's no cover gallery on the back of a DC omnibus. But another neat thing to show you guys, and I'll do this right now, is that another way to see differences is that DC does do a really good job with the interior picture on their books. So you can see here, And by the way, I do recommend this book. The Green Lantern by Jeff Johns is an amazing book. I'm still reading through it, though I'm actually pretty far in it, because I do go back and forth on it, on which omnibus I'm reading, and I am reading one every single night. I don't think one night kind of goes past when I don't open up one of these books before I go to sleep. So to give you an idea for like, so this would be Spider-Man, and when you slide this one out here, especially the older ones, you're going to see that it has just the text print on here, and a lot of the older ones do. Now, some of the newer stuff like event omnibuses, like a Explanation of Apocalypse or Empire, that would have artwork on the interior. But here, the older ones, these Silver Age type, just tend to use the basically the text on here. Now, just to show you, here is what the side looks like right there. But now they've reduced the font size to really small, actually, and people are not happy about it. They're calling it Fontgate. I kid you not. That's the thing that's going on right now in the omnibus world. But what you want to get to eventually, you want to get to seeing me going on Amazon and showing you guys this stuff, and we're going to do that. I'm going to give you we're going to look at some omnibuses. We're going to see which ones are worth picking up, not just based on the. Got to do this right, because this is actually probably my favorite omnibus. I love Spider-Man. I could read Spider-Man all freaking day. All right. There we go. I had to make sure I had that on correct. Also, there's the other thing to know is there is direct market, and there is basically buying them from Amazon or anywhere like that. So direct market means you're buying them from like a comic book shop somewhere where they'll have different type of covers and comic art. So without further ado, let's look into to Amazon. I'm going to show you some neat little tricks when it comes to getting omnibuses, to getting them for the right price. Hint, pre-ordering is a big thing, but also when to get things at the right time and how to check to see when the optimum time to pick up an omnibus is, and what some that we can look at and look at is this really actually cheap? What's the cost ratio? And it's really, a lot of it is subjective, but with that being said, let's go right to it. All right, so here we are right now on the Amazon page, and what I want to do is I'm going to just pick up one just to show you first. I want to show you Thor by Jason Aaron. This is one that's coming out like in March of next year. Obviously, you can see that I got this purchased. But what we want to do right away is go down to what you set to this little chart. And if you're wondering, okay, how come this is on my Amazon and it's not on yours? It's an app that goes through the Chrome. So if you use Chrome on your computer, you can actually get this app on your iPad as well. And use it through there. It is called Keepa. That's Keepa, and it basically reflects the pricing of a book. So when Thor with Jason Aaron was initially put out, when the pre-order came out, it came out with a $156 price tag. That's not even its biggest price tag, but it dropped down during the early parts of July to $114. So that's significant difference in pricing. So needless to say, what I tend to do is when I know a book is coming out, the two places that are really, it's the three places I check near mint condition. That's the Mighty Omar. He always has the new up-to-date stuff that's coming on there. Also recommend Mad Dog Comics and BJ Kicks. You do some great stuff, as well as OmniDog. But when you're following those guys there, you'll know when books are coming out ahead of time. So you just keep looking back on your Amazon and to see exactly when they come out, because you want to get it early on. You want to see when the price drops, because the price will drop initially, and it will only drop for a while. As you can see, it went from July the 8th to July the 16th, and bam, right back up again. to $156. So if you're lucky enough to grab it within this range, because here's the thing, if you buy it and the price goes down even more before it goes out, that's fantastic. The price is going to go down. But if you buy it after the price has jetted back up and it doesn't go down again, they don't like prorate it to back before it came out. So there's a thing to note. But we want to look at is we want to look for some that aren't pre-orders. We want to look for some stuff that's out right now, and kind of give you an idea of some of the stuff that like. There's a lot of stuff I like here. I'm a huge Marvel fan, so I got a lot of stuff like Doctor Strange pre-ordered, Moonlight, Omnibus Volume 2, even though I don't yet have Volume 1, because when these all came out, like they came from like from 114 to some of these were as low as $70 when I pre-ordered them, and that's something to look for. Now here's one right here. So Marvel omnibuses usually tap out for the regular omnibuses at around 160 to 165. A DC has a low mark, a benchmark of 163 up to 190. So there's difference right there. So here is probably the best modern run of Superman that's out there, and that is Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason omnibus. So we'll look at this right here, right now. So as you can see, this one is normally $163. Right now it's $112.43. So is that a good pricing for this one? So we got to look at more than just at the price drop. So what the first thing we do is we look down here, we look in the description, we see exactly what's included in here, and right off we can see there's 25 issues right out of the gate, like a straight 25 issue run. Then we get like more issues on here. So Superman 1 to 25, 27 to 28, 33 to 39, 42 to 45. There's annuals here. There's specials here as well. Episode issues of other comics as well, from Action Comics to Super Sons to Teen Titans. So you're getting a good cross section there. And that's one thing to look for is a good cross section of stuff. You're getting a nice good size run. You can see like here it is up at 161. We can see the dropping down prices, like the fluctuation throughout, and to see that's been, and it does show you not just the new stuff but like the used as well. So you come down here and you want to check the page count as well, because page count is definitely going to matter. It's not always going to matter, because there's certain ones where you just want the comic, you just want the run. So this one has 1128 pages. That's a pretty massive page count. That's a big page count on this one. The highest I can think about is Green Arrow Longbow Hunter Volume 1, runs around over 1,500 pages. That one is normally like very expensive, probably around 190. If you see that drop in price, we'll actually look at it here. Jump on it. It's a good one. It has great stuff by Mike Grell. Mike Grell is one of my favorite comic writers and artists. He worked on one of my favorite comics, which I wish would get an omnibus, called Warlord, and he did the first like 50 or so issues of that before somebody else took over. Not sure if it was Michael Fleischer or not that took over, because I know Michael Fleischer took over from Roy Thomas during the Conan era, but it's an idea of like kind of, we'll go with that anyway. We'll go with Mike Fleischer, even though it may not be him. We may be giving him credit for a comic that he did not do, so that's okay. So let's look down through here. We want to see some Marvel stuff here as well. We want to see some sale price stuff, stuff where prices have dropped significantly. Here's a bit of an oddity right here. This is an 1,100 page omnibus, Predator, the original years. It's listed for $55. It's been listed like that for a while. I'm very iffy on if that's actually going to come out now, because I cannot imagine like a price mistake staying for that long. Here you can see Green Lantern by Jeff Johns, Omnibus Volume 3 is at 116. Again, Jeff Johns' run on Green Lantern goes 3 omnibuses long, and I definitely recommend it. It's really, really worth checking out. Alright, so we can look at one right here. We'll open up this Daredevil right now by Brian Michael Bendis, Volume 1. This is a Marvel one. Brian Michael Bendis, one of his better runs outside of like this initial stuff that he did. There's a time when Bendis was really looking to prove himself in the comic industry. He started to do stuff like Alias, that was extremely popular. He, of course, brought us the Ultimate Universe with Ultimate Spider-Man, and he was still going along, kind of hitting home runs when it came to his Daredevil. He definitely made Daredevil kind of, again, more of a street level like character, like a really street level character, more so than he was before. And he actually took away his the whole Matt Murdock thing as well too. His identity became known to everybody. As you can see, it's priced definitely throughout. It's got a regular pricing of $127. It's down to $90 now, so that actually is a really good price for this one. We can see that it runs from Daredevil 16 to 19, then 26 to 50. So there's a nice run there, and from 56 to 60. So that's a pretty big thick run for this one here. So yeah, we got 848 pages. So that is definitely a nice size omnibus. There are times when I'll see something that comes around to like 300 to 400 pages for an omnibus, and when it's around 300 to 400 pages, I do find that it's that you're paying a bit of what's called the omnibus tax, because really at that point some of them are actually they're oversized hardcovers is what they are, but they're calling them omnibuses so they can actually put that extra price tag on them. But as we dive through here, we'll just go on to another page and kind of see this. There's some great stuff coming up. I recommend the What If series if you're a fan of that. There's of course the animated series that's coming out from Marvel soon. They're on the Disney Channel. And here's a really good one as well. And always look, because see this one right here. This is Hellblazer by Garth Ennis. A fantastic run on Hellblazer, probably the best run ever on Hellblazer. My John Constantine is Garth Ennis writing John Constantine, and we can see here that it's been dropped down from 195 to 107. So that is an incredible price drop. Now, one thing to look for is that this is not actually sold by Amazon. It's sold by YACMG, but it's fulfilled by Amazon. Now, this particular one here, I was a bit nervous about, but I recommend this if you're collecting this stuff. Go on Omnibus Facebook groups, talk to different people, kind of get a feel for the stuff, especially if you're starting in this. And I found out that YACMG is a solid place to buy from. So that's always good to see. And you can see right here, as you're looking at the price, that the Garth Ennis Hellblazer has gone from $195, and then bam, right here, as you can tell, there's a white spot. Now these white spots mean this is times when they weren't being sold at all. These are times when their stock was low and it went out of print. And you got to watch these, because the more white spaces you start to see come up, the more likely it is that it's going to go OOP again. And with DC specifically, omnibuses that are solicited can often get canceled, and omnibuses that are in print can often go out of print without much notification. You do want to hope that there's going to be reprints out there, but in the omnibus world, a lot of times a reprint on a book, especially if it's not like a solidly popular, like mainstream book like a Spider-Man or a Fantastic Four, and Fantastic Four won't get as many reprints either, it's just like an anniversary year, could be between 5 to 10 years before you can find this book again. So that's what makes it so important to like utilize and look at the ones that you want and get the ones that you think, okay, these are the ones that I'm going to need. Now, DC also, like I showed you with Marvel, DC also has their Golden Age books. Now, DC does kind of do theirs along Golden Age, Silver Age, and Bronze Age. Now, those are their more, like, Golden Age is kind of like the early stuff, the early Batman, the early Wonder Woman, the early Superman. But you'll find a lot more that you might be more accessible to maybe like a newer reader or even a younger reader, works more along the Silver Age. Because the Golden Age does have, it is an older type book, and there is a certain style of writing and art there that not everybody can, will find attractive, will be used to. But for like a more of a modern reader, if you watch a lot of the MCU, if you watch some of the DC films, then you're looking probably to get like a Bronze Era style. And they do have a kind of a uniformity to them that at first I was unsure about, but I'm actually kind of digging it right now. And as you can see right here, this is Batman Volume 9. So you can see that DC has, when it comes to characters like Batman and Superman, they do tend to stick with them. So getting a Volume 9 of an omnibus is a huge deal, because that means they've decided to stick with this character, and they've done volume after volume after volume. Because there are times when you get a character like a New Warriors or an Eternals or some certain characters where they'll start an omnibus run and they won't finish it. So the best thing about an omnibus is you get like complete stories and storylines or runs of characters. But the worst thing about that, in the same light, is basically, well, in all honesty, if they get canceled, then the run's not finished. So you want to make sure that they don't get canceled. DC is more infamous for canceling than Marvel, but both of them have become very quality when it comes to their omnibuses lately. But as you can see right here, this is an enormous savings when it comes to this one, but it's $163 down to $105. So that's almost a $60 savings, and it's been solidly up from $160 till recently. It's only like it started in like June, July that we've seen this go down, and you have to wonder, is this going to go down and go down until it goes white and then it goes out of print? You wonder that with DC. You got to be sure. So let's check with one of these here, because this is a Bronze Age, and you'll see that a Bronze Age book does often tend to be kind of like a lower page as opposed to some of the the Golden Age books, as opposed to the Bronze Age books should be lower page. So right here, this one is 672 pages. Why is it lower page and still have a 163 like cover price? Because, as I mentioned before, they have to redo these. They have to be remastered. They have to be done so that you can actually see them. Because if you were ever to go out and pick up like one of these old books, like in the wild, they often are very, like, the art it's faded. It doesn't look very good. You can't read all the words. It can be a bit like ripped up. So they do a lot of work when it comes to this style stuff. As we dive down through here, we can see there's the second. It's coming out in November. It's the Green Arrow, the Longbow Hunter Saga Volume 2. As you can see, that one is priced at $190. And let's see, if you were to have like grabbed it in June, for instance, like I pre-ordered it, it would have cost you $180, and that's the lowest that book has gone. So just for fun, let's do Volume 1. Sometimes when a Volume 2 is coming out, they'll lower the price on a Volume 1 just to get interest in the second volume. And let's see if they've done that. Yes, they have done that here. So as you can see right here, this is Green Arrow, the Longbow Hunter Saga Omnibus Volume 1, runs at $195. That's its cover price. It's $123 right now. And why? Well, because there's a second volume coming out. The closer as it comes to the second volume coming out, this will go back up to $195. It will not stay at this price. So this is a $72 price difference. That's a massive price drop. And as you can see, it has already gone out of print twice. Once the second volume comes out, DC does not tend to keep the first volume in print. So you want to get the first volume before the second volume comes out. You will probably not see another reprinting of this one, not in the next 5 to 8 years anyway. So, and again, like I mentioned on here before, this is like infamous for being one of the bigger omnibuses, and this one has 1,536 pages. So just to give you like an idea, that is the complete 3-issue miniseries of the Longbow Hunters, as well as the first 50 issues of the Green Arrow comic, and that was done in a prestige format, a comic that was sold mostly in comic shops as opposed to your local like drugstores at the time. Because yes, there was a time when drugstores sold comic books, and of course a story from Secret Origins as well, and a bunch of bonus material, including, well, often you'll see things like alternate cover art, some story breakdowns, some pencils. For guys like me that went to art school, the pencil things are actually really, really fun to have. And there's neat little kind of niche ones too that I've come across. Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Omnibus. Yes, that's the thing. There's an actual Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Omnibus. And here's one thing to look at too. A lot of people, especially like the younger viewers that are watching this right now, that are tuning into this, the New 52 was probably your growing up point in comic books. And recently there was Rebirth, and they've changed it around again. So, everything started over, because that's what DC does. But for the longest time, it was pre-crisis, it was post-crisis, which was 1986, and that was it until a few years back. and the New 52 happened. So you'll see a bunch of New 52 omnibuses coming out, because right now there's a nostalgia for that era. That's a time. It ran for like over 5 years, and people are nostalgic about this. So here's a good one right here, and a good example. So this is the Moonlight Omnibus Volume 1, which normally runs at $157. It's at $113.89 right now. So, you know, that's a $43, almost $50 savings when it comes to that. Why am I going to this one? Why is that one important? Well, obviously, you know, if you're more of a watcher of the TV shows, Moon Knight is getting a TV series, well, and he's being played by Oscar Isaac. But the other thing to know is that this volume right here is not available everywhere. So the Moon Knight Omnibus Volume 1 is only available here, like in certain places, in Canada and the US, but it's already sold out in a lot of places. There's already a solicitation for Moon Knight Volume 1. Exact same thing, a reprint that's coming in February of 2022. That's already at $168 right now if you were to go and go and try to pre-order it. But you can actually go out and buy the original Moon Knight Omnibus Volume 1. And considering that they've changed the font size on the side of the omnibus, you might want to go out and buy the original Moon Knight Omnibus, because it's going to be pretty cool. As you can see, it's been one of those that has dropped up and down a few times, and it's definitely a popular one. But we'll see a second printing of this, but I don't think it's going to go down. I think it'll go up in price, especially because the newer omnibuses have been like priced higher than stuff that's out this year. And we can see right here that has 1,016 pages. It's definitely a great buy. And let's check the cross section for this one here, because that's important for me. Some people like want to just get like a complete run on something, or just get like half of a run. For me, when it's a character like this, I want to make sure that I'm getting as much bang for my buck as I can, including like getting Moon Knight comics, getting anything that he's been in before. So Moon Knight started in Werewolf by Night. As you can see, those are included. The issues 32 and 33. We get the Marvel Spotlight 28 and 29, which is kind of like hinting at Moon Knight getting his own. We go from 47 to 50, which is again Moon Knight issues of the Defenders comic. Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. What's really neat about this one is Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man has never gotten its own oversized omnibus. Only Amazing Spider-Man so far has gotten it. Amazing Spider-Man and like centric runs, like the David Michelini, the Roger Stern runs, those have gotten their own omnibuses. But Spectacular Spider-Man's never gotten its own omnibus run. So finding issues like this in things like Moon Knight is your only way right now to see the oversized artwork for Moon Knight. 22, 23, Marvel 2 and 1, 52, Marvel 1 to 20, Moon Knight 1 to 20, Marvel Team Up Annual, Amazing Spider-Man here, and from different Hulk magazines where he was like the backup story, and we'll have those there as well. So those Hulk magazine issues will be in black and white, so you're going to get a cross section of color in black and white here. And with that being said, let's look at a Creator Omnibus. Some people love those. Some people really kind of just are iffy when it comes to it. I personally like the idea of a Creator Omnibus. As you can see, we got a couple here. So John Byrne is one of the kind of the preeminent writers and like artists when it comes to Marvel, and it comes to especially Fantastic Four. His Fantastic Four Omnibus has been out of print for a while, but it looks like Volume 1 is back in print right now and is gone from 158 to 139. So actually a decent price. His run on Fantastic Four is pretty epic. But look, we can look here and we can see, if you want to get a cross section of Byrne's work, then there's the Marvel Universe, which has been dropped down to 117 right now. And this is a good cross section reference one here. As you'll see, it goes Champions 11 to 15, which was a short-lived like superhero book. You got Marvel Preview number 11. I'm pretty sure that's Star-Lord, if I remember correctly. Avengers 164 to 166. And then you get 181 to 191. So there's a pretty good run on Avengers right there. Then you get Power Man 48 to 50, a Marvel Premier 47 to 48, Captain America 247 to 255, Silver Surfer issue number 1 from the 1982 version, Incredible Hulk 314 to 319, Wolverine 17 to 23, and material from Marvel Fanfare. We get an omnibus that gives you about a page count of 1,120. That's incredible. And you get a nice wide selection, not just of John Byrne's work, but you get a nice selection of different comics and different comic characters. It's a good way if you're going in and you're trying to decide which characters that you want to focus on and you want to really grab and gravitate towards, is to get something like this and read through it and see which ones really capture your interest, which ones you're like, oh man, I wish there was more of this. Man, those Avenger stories were really good. I really would like to read more of those Avenger stories. And then you know, okay, maybe Avengers is a style of omnibus that I want to collect. So there we go. This is just a start per se to just for you for looking into like collecting the omnibuses. Hopefully you know, we've gone through this a bit. We've looked at some of the omnibuses, and you can use this when you're looking at things like the like movies as well, or anything else. When you go to Amazon, the first thing you want to do is you go in when you know, long before you know something's coming out. Keep an eye out for listings. When a list, what you want to do is you want to put it in the pre-order if it's something that you really want. If it's something that's already out and the pricing seems to be that it's up a little bit too much, you take that item, you put it directly into your cart. Not a pre-order, because pre-order is just going to pre-order it. Put something that's already out directly into your cart, and then you go to your cart, you hit save for later, so that any time that there's a price drop in that particular item, every time you come in, check your cart, go to your Amazon, click on your cart, go to that, and you can see where the price drops have happened. I hope this has been helpful and you enjoyed it, and hopefully you don't mind me going into something that's not totally film related, but we did sneak some film stuff in there along the way. I am Aaron. Thank you for joining me today here in the Cult of Cinema, I guess Cult of Comics, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about this again soon. If you like this and you find this something interesting you'd like to see more of, please like, comment, share, and give comments down in the comment section down below. And I'll see you here again soon, and I'll see some of you guys here every Friday for the Cult of Jallo on my Patreon. So if you're a Jallo fan, make sure you check that out. As always, links down below, donation, merchandise store, because I got a merch store, and Patreon. But above all, hitting that like button helps out the channel tremendously. And I'll see you here again soon, because much like in the Cult of Cinema, when there is always another movie, here in the Cult of Comics, there is always another story, and there's always one more page to turn, and I can't wait to turn it.